All right. In the
Hi.
studio with Fernanda. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for playing.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So I want to start with the whistling.
Sure. The birds?
So are you like, did you listen to Molly Lewis or Andrew Bird, or like who do you listen to, or does the whistling just come naturally?
I listen to birds.
Okay.
Like real birds.
To actual birds.
Yeah, yeah. I have grown up and I'm living currently in this beautiful neighborhood called Charleswood, and there's so many forests and animals, and so a big part of my everyday routine is to just walk outside, and I'm always listening to birds. So for me, it was just like a natural sort of, I was probably playing the song outside, like writing it outside and whistling along with birds, and then it became a song. So I decided to keep that in it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the birds, like, sonically are the inspiration, or do you find just like it's kind of temperamentally, like you're kind of vibing with birds, so that's where you throw some whistling in?
It's both. Like for me, it's really like when I hear a bird song, it feels like a friend is nearby. It's like a comforting feeling. And the tone of that song in particular, Blue Woman, it's kind of like a hug. Like it's kind of like a moment of not feeling alone in your hopes and dreams and sadnesses and stuff. So I wanted to give it that sort of feeling of like you're not alone, I guess, and having a little, birdie chirping in your ear.
Oh, this is like
The
the Jiminy Cricket kind of
kinda,
like
yeah.
little animal helper.
Yeah, exactly.
I did want to ask about like mythology, because there seems to be some like you're tapping into mythopoetic kind of terms in some of your songs there. Like, are you a big reader? Like, do you study folklore, or is this like kind of you're building your own folklore in your own songs?
I definitely feel like I'm building like folklore in my songs, and folk culture, folk tales, stories are so inspiring to me, and I think like it's so fun to build a world within your song and then try to convey that as best you can. But I'm definitely like I did study before I dropped out of university. I did study creative writing, so I read a lot of different things. And then I also grew up in a Christian family, so symbolism and archetype and that sort of thing really resonated with me. But yeah, there's a lot of lore that comes along with Fernanda, and it's been really fun to explore that and develop the concept and the story.
Does that extend to like naming yourself Fernanda, like to having like a moniker that you perform under rather than your own name?
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's a weird thing because, when you're going through an artist name change, I feel like a lot of insecurities come up, at least for me, where it's like, oh, can I be that? Can I say that? Can I like define myself in a way that like no one else can? Like literally giving yourself a nickname, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a silly thing to do. But I think that Fernanda represents for me this sort of energy or essence and this persona that is the voice of the story that I'm trying to tell. So it's been helpful to kind of create a container through that name, if that makes sense. And then the best thing about Fernanda in particular is she's a bit of a shapeshifter. So she doesn't have to be one thing. And it's all made up in my head, so, right?
As long as it works
it
for
doesn't
you,
matter.
ultimately, right? So then the songs themselves, is it building out your own folklore? Like, are you purposely thinking like these types of songs, or do you find that Fernanda is loose enough that you can pull a bunch of different songs together and make them something that works together?
Well, I am like, right now I'm working on recording an EP, but it's also kind of fusing into the building blocks of a record, an album, a story that I want to make and I want to tell that will have kind of like a hero's journey cycle to it. So yeah, like I'm working towards creating this world and creating this story, and using Fernanda, I know I already said this, but using Fernanda as the voice, she's not necessarily like the narrator. She is but she's also not the main character. It's like an omnipresent sort of character, if that makes sense. So in that sense, she can tell any story from any era, because there's a little bit of an old-timey vibe that I feel with her, but there's also the modern world as well. So yeah, she's kind of moving around.
So that old-timey vibe, you mentioned the last track is a fado.
Yeah.
And obviously that is like a classical form of Portuguese kind of like folkloric song. Like, do you purposefully write styles, or do you find that like certain songs like suggest themselves to styles?
I think certain songs suggest them to a style. And it depends on like what I'm kind of taking in at the time. Hills of Spain, for example, I did write that while I was traveling in Spain. And my mom's side of the family does have like ancestry there, and my dad's side of the family has ancestry in Portugal. So being there was a very inspiring moment, and I kind of tapped into the folklore that I was feeling like through all my senses, and I created this story of this gypsy woman who leaves her town and she lives in the hills. And that's kind of like, that's what inspired the whole song. And then the Wolf Girl Fado is like, I actually wrote that song a long time ago. And then when I started exploring Fado music more, I realized, oh, that's a Fado. Like the content, the feeling of longing, that's the same like motif that's in so much Fado music, is that feeling of longing. So that kind of identified itself to me later on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then in songwriting, like it sounds like some songs come to you like the Hills of Spain, like you're traveling and it inspires that thing. And then some of them you're more purposeful in terms of like writing a specific story.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll have a story that's kind of ruminating in my mind and in my body for a while, and then all of a sudden it'll come out as a song. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm not always in control of those situations. Like it's not me doing it, it's just I'm kind of letting the story like come through. And that's kind of the case with Blue Woman, where when I started writing it, I was probably in my early 20s, and the first line, will I ever feel like a woman and not a girl? That's really how I was feeling it. And that song's pretty old now, and I still resonate with those lyrics. So that story is kind of like it's not as, what's the word? It's not as like in a box. That story feels kind of like more of a cosmic story, like a larger. It's
not contained?
Yes, yeah. And I feel like that story is evolving. And even the song in the past few months has evolved so much. From the first acoustic version I wrote of it to the version that I'm going to release. It's gone through so many evolutions, which is really cool. Yeah.
How do you determine when a song it gets an evolution? Like are you purposeful in terms of like, I need to go back to this and work on it some more, or does the song like sort of like twitch at the back of your head like, hey, I'm not done?
Yeah, no, that I love that. That's exactly what happens. It's like, hey, I'll get a feeling sometimes to kind of not ditch a song, but just like put it back on the shelf for a while.
Yeah.
And then I'll feel that nudge or whatever it is. Or I'll feel a need to emotionally, I need to go back to that song, and it becomes this relationship that I explore again. So it's kind of like, I guess you could use the metaphor of like having a friend or like a guide. And I really resonate with this archetype of a pilgrim, like someone who's on a journey. There's really no destination, but at every crossroads or smaller destination, you're discovering something, you're learning, and you're evolving. And I feel like my songs are kind of like the lampposts, and I'm just this little pilgrim with my stick, like walking from lamppost to lamppost. And when it's ready to, I guess, be shared, then that's when I start, like, I guess more so thinking about how I'm externally sharing that to the world instead of just being kind of like my private thing, like a thing for me.
Pilgrimage is obviously like a big thing in Portugal, like the Camino.
Yes, and that is on my bucket list. I swear to God, I'm gonna do it.
I was curious if like you're kind of like going through your own like spiritual or creative Camino,
Yeah,
as like if it ties into that like Portuguese heritage.
100%. Like, so the name Fernanda, and my last name officially, legally, is Fernandez. So I just took the feminine singular of that. But I didn't, I decided on Fernanda, or I was feeling Fernanda out, kind of like meditating on it. And then eventually I decided to search up on Google, what does Fernanda mean? And it means journey ready. And I lost my mind because I was like, well, that's perfect. That's exactly what this is for me. So yeah, the Camino is yeah, I am on a metaphorical Camino for sure. And I think everyone is, whether they want to realize it or not. But that's just my opinion.
Sure. Growing up with a mother with a Spanish background and your father with the Portuguese background, like was like folk music big in your house? Like, is this something that you heard a lot of? Like,
well, it's funny, like now that I've started to take more of a inspiration to it and I'm studying it, I feel like we kind of listen to it more in the house, like now.
Okay.
But when I was a kid and growing up, I was exposed to so much different, like so many different genres. And my dad, he loves music. He's a musician as well. And he exposed me to so many different things, like Johnny Cash, like Willie Nelson, folk kind of stuff, U2, rock kind of stuff, like everything. And I'm sure I heard some like Fado songs as well.
Right.
And then on my mom's side, there's more of a, I don't know, I on my mom's side, I feel like I've interacted more with folklore and even like hints at like fairy tale kind of stories, because she also has Irish heritage and there's a lot of sort of folklore there as well.
The Fae and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so even though these things weren't really like spoken about to me, I recognized that it was something that felt like part of who I am, and I knew it was in our ancestry, but I kind of took more of a liking to it, I guess.
Yeah. So this is stuff that was like getting packed in your sack for you by your parents for that journey eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Lots of stories. Like, I think to me, art and music, for me, I just want to tell a story that helps people like make that connection in themselves and in the world and hopefully bring some sort of peace. But yeah, I just think storytelling is it's fun, it's entertaining, it's important, it's fun.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So the EP is somewhat imminent. Do you have like a release date or anything like that?
That is in the near future. I'm currently working with a producer from Toronto, and we are slowly but surely kind of, we're working towards the EP. Blue Woman was the first song that I recorded with him and he produced. And that was like such an accident, to be honest. Like, I knew I wanted to release music this spring. I have all of these songs written, kind of like ready to go. It was just a matter of time and money and finding the right person really that I could trust. And it's been such a blessing to find someone that I do trust with nurturing my sound and letting me like really take the lead. So the process has been really nice and slow and steady, I'd say, because I really do want to take the time to get to know this voice and know these stories and songs and know how I want to portray that in the sound design and all that stuff. But Blue Woman will be released at some point in May.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be working on that EP throughout the summer, and maybe it'll be released in the winter. I don't know. something like that.
Sure enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the meantime, what's the best place to keep tabs on you? Is Instagram or?
Yes, Instagram, because I have not finished updating my website yet. So my Instagram is at visions.of.fernanda.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Dot.
coming in and playing some songs. No extra dot.
No dots at the end. They don't allow that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But thank you. No, this was so fun. And thanks everyone for making it happen.